My name is Aaron. The humiliation my mother endured at my brother Leo's wedding still burns in my memory like a searing flame. It was a beautiful day on the surface, with the elegant Seaport District venue filled with guests, but it quickly turned into a nightmare. As my mother, Elise, walked into the opulent reception hall, Leo's fiancée's mother, Diana, a haughty woman with a penchant for cruelty, stepped forward. With a malicious grin, she pinned a name tag on my mother's chest and announced in front of the 200 guests, "Everyone, this is Elise, the uneducated tenant living in Sterling property number 53. We've been kind enough to let her stay for free all these years." The room erupted in laughter, and my mother, a strong and hard-working woman who had raised my brother and me alone after my father's death, stood there, shaking, her head down, and tears welling in her eyes. She started to turn away, but I grabbed her hand firmly and said, "Mom, we're going home right now." What Diana and her family didn't know was that for the past few months, I had been quietly building a federal fraud case against them. They thought they could humiliate us, but they were in for a rude awakening. By Monday, I was determined to take back everything they had stolen and bring down their entire empire. To understand how we got to this point, we need to go back many years. My father, Henry, was a hard-working construction worker. I was 10 years old when he left for work one fateful morning. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, trying to finish the homework I'd forgotten the night before. He poured coffee into his thermos, and my mother, Elise, was packing his lunch, a simple sandwich and an apple, just like every day. He kissed my mother on the forehead and said, "3 more years of payments, Elise. Then this house is ours. No more landlords, no more rent. A real home for our kids." Mom smiled and told him not to work too hard. He ruffled my hair, then went to check on Leo, who was still sleeping on the couch. The mortgage statement on the fridge showed that we were close to paying off the house. The purchase price was $200,000, and only $60,000 remained. But that day, he never came home. The hospital called with the news of a massive brain hemorrhage. He'd collapsed on the construction site and was dead on arrival. My mother was devastated. She collapsed against the cold tile wall of the hospital, her sobs echoing through the sterile hallway. I held Leo's hand so tightly that my nails left marks. For weeks, our small house in the neighborhood was filled with food from the kind neighbors at the local church. After the funeral, an envelope from the mortgage company arrived. The payment due in 30 days was $1,300. Mom stared at the number for a long time and said, "We'll figure it out." And she did. She took on 3 jobs: a full-time cleaning job at a downtown hotel, evening shifts at a convenience store, and weekend catering gigs. Leo learned to cook simple meals, and I did my homework in the hotel break room while Mom cleaned the conference rooms. We paid the mortgage every month, no matter how hard it was. By the time I was 14, I could cook Mom's favorite pasta dish perfectly. Leo worked part-time at a local garage, and he would quietly slip his earnings into Mom's purse. We endured harsh winters, keeping the thermostat low to save money. When the property taxes increased, Mom took on a 4th job, sewing clothes for neighbors late into the night. Her fingers were swollen and cracked, but she never complained. She kept all the receipts in a folder labeled Dad's Dream House, treating it like a precious treasure. In 2009, we finally paid off the mortgage. The bank sent a letter, and Mom had it framed and hung it above the kitchen table. "Your father would be so proud," she told us. For a while, we were happy, believing that the house on Elm Street was truly ours. But then, the financial crisis hit. Leo had been accepted into a local college, and he needed $22,000 for 2 years of tuition. Mom had only saved $4,000. That's when Victor Sterling came into our lives. He was a well-dressed, friendly man Mom had met at the church. He offered to help us access the equity in our home. He explained it as a cash-out refinance. "You can take out about $25,000 for Leo's education," he said. Mom was hesitant. "We just paid off the house," she said. But he assured her it was a common and safe process. He spread a stack of 30 pages of dense legal documents on the kitchen table. Mom had moved to the United States from Italy when she was 22. Her English was good for daily life, but legal jargon was a mystery to her. Victor pointed to different parts of the documents, saying, "This just says you understand the terms. This confirms the property address, and this authorizes the transfer of funds." Mom signed the papers, her signature shaky. The notary, a woman named Sarah, stamped the documents. Later, I would find out that Sarah worked for Victor's company. The notary was a sham. Victor handed Mom a check for $25,000. "Thank you," Mom said. "This means the world for Leo." What Mom didn't know was that buried in the fine print on page 20 was a clause that transferred the ownership of our house to Sterling Holdings Trust number 53. She thought it was a refinance, but it was a theft. The money went to Leo's tuition, and he graduated 2 years later with a business degree. For the next 16 years, Mom lived in the house, believing it was hers. She paid property taxes every year, a total of $72,000 over those years. She also spent $9,000 on a new roof in 2016 and $6,000 on a new heating system in 2020. In 2020, the city announced a rezoning plan. Our neighborhood, once a working-class area, suddenly became prime real estate. The value of our house on Elm Street skyrocketed from $200,000 to $750,000 in just a few years. Victor Sterling watched his investment grow. That same year, Leo started dating Diana's daughter, Ava. He didn't mention her last name for a while. When he finally did, Mom said, "Sterling? Like Mr. Sterling from church?" Leo said, "Yeah, small world, right?" Mom smiled, completely unaware of the truth. "I became a paralegal because of Mom. After Dad's death, I saw her struggle with legal documents. Insurance forms, school financial aid applications. She would sit at the kitchen table, reading the same paragraph over and over, trying to make sense of the confusing legal language. "I wish I understood this," she would say. I decided to study political science at the local university on a full scholarship and then got my paralegal certification. I joined a legal aid organization, working on housing cases, tenant-landlord disputes, and predatory lending. I'd seen many scams, but I never thought my own mother was a victim. In December 2025, Mom called me from work. "Erin, honey, can you help me with something? I want to apply for a reverse mortgage. The roof needs repairs, and I need about $30,000. I was skeptical. "Mom, are you sure? Reverse mortgages can be tricky." But she was insistent. That evening, I logged into the County Registry of Deeds database and typed in the address of our house on Elm Street. The screen loaded, and my heart sank. The property owner was listed as Sterling Holdings Trust number 53. I clicked through the scanned documents and found Mom's signature on the deed transfer. I called Mom. "Mom, when did you refinance the house?" She told me it was in 2009 for Leo's college. "Who did you refinance with?" I asked. "Mr. Sterling from church," she said. I explained to her that it wasn't a mortgage but a deed transfer. I drove to Mom's house. We sat at the kitchen table, and I went through all the documents. I showed her the fraudulent promissory note, the fake truth in lending disclosure, and the deed transfer on page 20. The notary stamp was from Sarah, who worked for Victor's company. "Mom, you transferred the ownership of the house. You have a life estate, which means you can live here until you die, but you don't own it," I said. Her face went pale. "But I've been paying property taxes," she said. I pulled up the house's estimated value on my phone. It was $750,000. "Mom, you've been maintaining someone else's property for 16 years, I said. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about Mom's trusting signature on the deed. The next morning, I started investigating. I used the legal aid's access to public records databases and found that Sterling Holdings Trust had 18 properties, all in neighborhoods with high immigrant populations. I cross-referenced the addresses with voter registration, census data, and mortgage records. I found a pattern. All the homeowners were elderly, over 55 when they signed the documents, and their primary language was not English. None of them knew they had lost their homes. I started making calls. Mrs. Garcia, my name is Erin. I'm a paralegal at the legal aid. I believe you may have been the victim of deed fraud involving Sterling Development. Some people hung up, some were suspicious, but others started crying. I thought it was a loan, they said. Mr. Sterling said he was helping me. By the end of January, I had found 14 other families. 10 were willing to talk, and 7 were willing to fight. I spent many evenings sitting at kitchen tables, listening to their stories. Mrs. Garcia, an 80-year-old Spanish-speaking widow, showed me the same 30-page packet Victor had given her. Mr. Kim, a Korean grandfather, apologized in broken English for losing the family home. I recorded hours of interviews, built detailed spreadsheets tracking the forged notary stamps, and calculated every dollar of stolen equity. My supervisor, Lisa, warned me that I was getting too emotionally involved, but I told her this was personal. On February 1st, I called the FBI. The agent, Mark, said they had been investigating mortgage fraud rings in the area for 10 months. I told him everything: the 18 properties, the pattern, and the $9 million in stolen equity. He said they had had Sterling Development under surveillance since July 2025 but needed victims willing to come forward. On March 5th, I went to the FBI office with copies of Mom's deed, a comparative analysis of all 18 properties, financial calculations, and a timeline. Mark reviewed everything and said, "We already have draft warrants. Your mother's case and the other 14 families you've identified are the breakthrough we needed. With your cooperation, we can finalize and execute within 6 weeks." I thought about the humiliation Mom would face at Leo's wedding. I knew about the seating chart and the name tag they had planned. I was ready. On April 9th, 3 days before the wedding, I filed a temporary restraining order, TRO, in the Superior Court to block the sale of all 18 properties in Sterling Holdings Trust's portfolio. My supervising attorney, Lisa, said, "Erin, filing this 3 days before the man's daughter's wedding is aggressive." But I knew Victor was planning to sell Mom's house the week after. "If I wait, we lose leverage," I said. The judge granted the TRO on April 11th. The order was effective immediately, freezing all property sales. Process servers delivered the copies on April 13th, the day after the wedding. At the wedding, when Diana humiliated Mom, I stood up for her. Leo tried to stop us from leaving, but I confronted him. "Did you know about the house, Leo?" I asked. He wouldn't meet my eyes. I told Mom that he had known since Thanksgiving 2023 when Victor had told him at dinner. Leo finally looked at Mom and said, "Mom, I'm sorry. I thought it would be better for you in senior housing." Mom was heartbroken. "Benjamin, your father died for this house," she said. We left the wedding. Mom asked me, "Did I lose my house?" I showed her the TRO filing confirmation. "Not yet, Mom. Not if I can help it. There are 14 other families, and we're fighting together." On Monday, April 15th, we went to the court. The judge, a stern-looking woman named Judge Thompson, reviewed the TRO application. Victor's lawyer claimed that the transactions were legitimate business deals. But the judge wasn't convinced. She asked, "Mr. Sterling, did you represent to Mrs. Elise that this was a refinance?" Victor hesitated. "I may have used that term," he said. The judge pressed, "Yes or no?" "Yes," he admitted. "But it wasn't a refinance, it was a deed transfer," the judge said. The judge granted the TRO, blocking all property sales pending a full hearing. She also ordered Victor to produce all contracts, correspondence, and financial records related to the transactions. That afternoon, the FBI raided Sterling Development Headquarters. Agent Mark called me and said, "We've found more evidence. There are actually 25 properties involved, and we've found email chains about forging documents." The story hit the news. The media started calling. Ava called me, begging me to drop the lawsuit. "Aaron, please. My father's company is falling apart. The board is demanding his resignation." I told her, "Your father forged documents and stole homes from elderly immigrants. That's not business, that's crime." Over the next few weeks, Victor was placed on administrative leave, and Ava was reassigned to a non-operational role. 3 major investors pulled funding from Sterling's development projects, and 2 city contracts were suspended. After 8 months of legal battle, in August, Victor's attorneys offered a settlement. They proposed $250,000 per family, plus deed rescission and return of all properties in exchange for the release of all civil claims. I took the offer to Mom and the other families. Mom thought for a moment and said, "Your father always said justice delayed is justice denied. I want my house back. I want to move forward." We accepted the settlement. Mom used part of the money to pay off some debts and help 2 other families cover medical bills. She also established a scholarship fund in Dad's name, the Henry Memorial Scholarship for children of single-parent families, with an initial funding of $300,000. In October, Mom sold the house on Elm Street. She said there were too many memories, both good and bad. She bought a smaller house by the lake. One day, Mom received a letter from Leo. He wrote, "Mom, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I betrayed you for a job and a lifestyle. I'm working at a local factory now, trying to understand what Dad went through. I'm sorry, and I'm trying to be a better person." Mom asked me what I thought. I said, "I don't know. He made a big mistake, but he seems to be trying to change." Mom said, "Healing takes time. Maybe one day, we can forgive him." As for me, I'm still at the legal aid, fighting for families who are victims of fraud. I've learned that real strength is standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult. And I'll always have my mother's back.